Hey there guys, it's Lance from CinematicGalaxy here, and today I'm here to review Pixar's 9th feature film, WALL-E. WALL-E is directed by Andrew Stanton, the director of Finding Nemo, and most recently John Carter's first live-action film, which I haven't seen. Anyway, WALL-E is basically like this big kind of space adventure film, and it starts off way into the future in the year, I believe 2700, and basically WALL-E is the last living thing left on Earth with the exception of a cockroach. Basically, the humans have left Earth. They left Earth years ago because conditions got so, bad in terms of pollution and everything that it just wasn't suitable for them to live anymore. And basically, all these robots known as WALL-Es, I believe it stands for Waste Allocation Load Lifter Earth Class. Yeah, that's what it stands for. They take all this trash and they put it through like a blender in their body. They kind of mold it together into cubes and they stack it up. And I guess basically what they're trying to do is just stack all the trash up, gather all the trash and hopefully make conditions on Earth suitable for living on again. Now, WALL-E was a film that back when I first heard about it, I believe I first started hearing about it right around the time Cars came out, because, I've always kind of followed this information. It was a film that I was very excited to see because I just love outer space. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Just something about the thought of outer space is just so fascinating and so incredible. And, just thinking about, all the planets and the stars and everything. I'd be kind of nervous to travel in outer space, but still, just the thought of it has always intrigued me. And I really loved WALL-E when I first saw it, and I love it now. The director, Andrew Stanton, took such a creative risk with WALL-E, especially in this day and age, in which just so many different films, animated films, even, Pixar's films, they have so much witty dialogue. And people, I think, have gotten very used to hearing that in the film. Pixar managed to tell great stories in their other films that had a lot of dialogue, but they still did great in the scenes that didn't have dialogue. But with WALL-E, much of this film does not have dialogue except for robotic bleeps, and the storytelling is so great here. Andrew Stanton does a fantastic job telling the story visually. Just the way everything is done. He does such a great job of capturing the mood, and you also have to give credit to the cinematographer Roger Deakins, who is just a phenomenal cinematographer. Yeah, the visual storytelling in this film is just spot on perfect. It just recalls a lot of the old silent films, Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and even a lot of the old shorts like Tom and Jerry, where Tom and Jerry rarely ever talked. So much of that was visual storytelling, and this film is definitely very inspired by that. Now, obviously, again, with all these Pixar films, the animation is just spellbinding in this film. I guess with the exception of the humans that come later in the film, overall WALL-E might actually be the most realistic looking Pixar film to date. They even use live action footage in this film, something that a lot of people are kind of iffy on, but I personally love that decision. It actually really blends in very well with the look of this film, and just the way everything looks, like, the polluted Earth is so hauntingly beautiful, because while it's horrible that the Earth is all polluted and everything, there's just something so artfully, it's just so artfully crafted together and so beautiful to look at. All the robots look fantastic. WALL-E looks incredibly realistic, but at the same time, not too realistic, but he still just feels real. Yeah, the animation in this film, the outer space scenes look incredible. Just everything, the planets, all the stuff you see, nebulas and stuff, the purple gas clouds and all that stuff, they look fantastic. And just the sound design, my God, I must mention the sound design is done by Ben Burtt, who did the sound for Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and he is just at top form here. Just everything this guy does is fantastic. And WALL-E's voice was actually created completely through sound design. I think he used his own voice, and he just kind of put it through a blender of different sound effects, and it's really fantastic. Just all the different science fiction sounds and everything is so great in this film. And also Sigourney Weaver talks for a computer, and it's just awesome because Sigourney Weaver, she's Ellen Ripley in Alien. I must also say that I love the opening of this film so much. Again, I already mentioned the cinematography and the visual storytelling and all that. It's really great there, and I love the choice that Andrew Stanton picked to play that song, put on your Sunday clothes over the opening scene, because it gives it such a kind of classic retro quality. It feels like you could be watching a classic Disney film. Really, it does. And honestly, in a lot of places, WALL-E does remind me of a classic Disney film like Dumbo or Pinocchio or, just one of those films. And I mean, that's a really high compliment for me. The score in this film is by Thomas Newman, who also did Finding Nemo for Pixar. And once again, his score here is fantastic. He actually comes up with a lot of very good, very memorable themes in this film that just really go along with it very well and really give it a legitimate sci-fi feeling. WALL-E is a legitimate sci-fi film. I just have to say, honestly, let me just go ahead and say, the first 20-30 minutes of this film, everything that takes place on Earth is masterful. Masterful. Just incredible. From the moment the film opens all the way through when the ship blasts off in outer space. Again, what ultimately makes this film so great, as with the best Pixar films, is the story and the characters. First of all, the characters. This is a film that is interesting to note that Pixar said that they actually came up with the character of WALL-E, I believe, way back before Toy Story even came out. They came up with this character, this robot, and that idea was always there. And Andrew Stanton and company, they actually built the story around that. And WALL-E is a fantastic character. You immediately latch on to this guy the minute you see him on screen. You immediately feel so bad for him because he's just so lonely and so by himself on Earth. He only has a cockroach for a buddy. And, it says a lot about this film to actually make me like a cockroach as a character. But yeah, WALL-E is a fantastic character and just so visually expressive, so expressive in his eyes. It was just genius the way they did that. I mean, Pixar once again just did a great job with that visual storytelling. And then we have Eve, the robot who ends up arriving on Earth. She's an extraterrestrial vegetation evaluator, I think that's what it stands for. And she basically, she comes to Earth, I guess, every year or so, and searches for plant life on Earth. If they find any plant on Earth, the humans are going to come back and they're going to try to make life suitable on Earth again. And that's, I think, what ultimately makes WALL-E a science fiction film, because that's such a science fiction type of plot. Like if you've ever seen the film Silent Running, old 1970s sci-fi film with Bruce Dern, the story between this and that is very similar. The great thing about this film is, even though it does have an obvious ecological message, it doesn't feel like it's preachy to me. It doesn't feel like it's bashing you over the head with it. It's just, the stuff that happens in WALL-E, the things that we see, all the humans, for instance, are these, in outer space, they're just these big, fat blobs that, they're like zero gravity, and basically they talk into screens all the time. I mean, that's really not that hard to believe at all. It's not that far-fetched, because just about everywhere you go, you see somebody texting, and they're paying more attention to their phones than they are the people around them. And again, I'm not saying it like I have any kind of political agenda on the matter, but if you really look at it, a lot of the stuff in this film is not far-fetched. And hopefully we'll never have a future like WALL-E, but again, it's not that hard to believe that the Earth and the people could end up like this. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Again, this film has a very science fiction type of plot, but ultimately the film is a love story, and it's a love story between WALL-E and Eve, these two robots. And that is something that, could easily have been very silly and very stupid, but the way it's done in this film is just so sweet and so actually believable and authentic. Again, you care for WALL-E as a character, and you just kind of feel bad for him when you see his attempts failing to get Eve to understand what he's feeling. But, ultimately, obviously it pays off. But again, this film just takes so many great twists and turns that really make it a great adventure. WALL-E, as with a lot of Pixar films, it is a funny film. I don't think it's as funny as a lot of the other Pixar films, but I don't really think that's a flaw either. It does definitely have some funny moments, but ultimately this is a very serious story, and really a very dark story. It's a very kind of apocalyptic, dystopian future film, and I think that works very well. And again, while I love the entire first, portion of the film that takes place on Earth, I love it all. Probably my favorite scene in the entire movie is the scene where WALL-E, after he watches the little bit of Hello Dolly, he goes outside and we just see him look up in the stars, and he plays the song from Hello Dolly on his little tape recorder that he has built in. and then he sees this big toxic waste storm come at him. And again, the sound design is just so fantastic. The animation is just visually stimulating. And that's really a magical movie moment, and I think it's fantastic. But yeah, the other characters in this film are also very good. We have the captain, who I love in this movie. I can't remember his name, but the captain is a great character, and I love the fact that the captain, he's fat like everybody else, and he's been doing this for a long time. And, you know, the humans have been in outer space for the past 700 years. I love the fact that they made the captain a character that really wanted more. You know, if anybody, they feel like they were destined for more in life, that's kind of what this guy is like, and I really like that about him. It gave his character great depth. WALL-E also has many great tributes to a lot of classic sci-fi films like Star Wars and 2001: A Space Odyssey, and you know, you can just go on and on. There aren't really any flaws with WALL-E that I can think of, nothing major or anything, but I will say that the second half of the film, while it is still good and the movie never really loses direction, the second half isn't quite as stimulating as the first half. And again, that's not a major flaw, but because the first half was fantastic, and I mean, you still have to commend Pixar for the fantastic job they did with the storytelling, but the second half that takes place mostly in outer space is interesting, and you're still following the story, you still care for the characters, but it's just not as great and as masterful as the opening 30 minutes were on Earth. And really, that's the reason why I'm ultimately going to give WALL-E an A instead of an A+. You know, again, I think that WALL-E is a great movie, a fantastic film, but it's just not, you know, again, the second half just isn't quite as great as the first. And I love it when films, I mean, the ending's not a letdown. The ending is good. I wish that the second half could have some kind of way just been just as great or even better than that first half. But again, there's nothing that's really bad in the second half. I still think everything works, and WALL-E is still a great film. It's not quite one of my favorite Pixar movies, but it's not really, I wouldn't consider it one of my least favorite either. It's kind of right there in the middle section. And when I'm done with all these reviews, I'll let you guys know my official kind of grouping of the Pixar films. So anyway, guys, let me know, who's your favorite character in WALL-E? Mine is definitely WALL-E, although I love the captain as well, and I like Eve as well too. But WALL-E is such a great character, it's so easy to get behind him, and I just love him in this film. I love his spirit, his determination. Anyway, guys, stay tuned for my review for Up, and I hope you all have a great day. This is Lance from CinematicGalaxy, signing off.